We humans are a funny old lot, aren't we? Have you noticed? We're a bit peculiar because we seem to enjoy being harmed. By that I mean poisoned. We seem to enjoy it. We seem to just revel in it because we are being poisoned and we just don't care. We get ill, we go to the doctor, we have a pill and everything seems all right until the next time. So what do I mean by being poisoned? Well, we're being poisoned everywhere, aren't we? And I mean, I've been talking about it. You know, you've got the old chemtrails up in the sky, dimming everything down, stopping the sunlight from coming in, putting all those heavy metals into the atmosphere that we're breathing. And of course, we know about the water. There's all sorts of things going into the water. Sure, it's filtered to a certain degree, but they're bunging fluoride in it. Not everywhere, but in a lot of places. And fluoride's not terribly good for us, though it's supposed to be good for the teeth. Is that the only reason you would shove it in the water? I don't know. Maybe we should look into that a little bit in more detail. But there's all sorts of other bits and pieces that are coming into the water. So it's a good idea to get our jugs and just filter it a little bit more with some charcoal or whatever other stuff that goes into it, which is useful. But that's not enough, is it? Because everywhere else we're being poisoned. We know about the EMF, the electrical magnetic fields from mobile phones, and the Wi-Fi routers that we have in our house that emit all these waves. We plug in our phones by our beds as we sleep, and there's a pulse going out that's attacking our brain. Yet we don't care. We carry on using our mobile phones regardless of beginning to realise that they might be affecting us and changing the molecules in our blood, or perhaps frying our brains as we hold them up against that. We don't seem to mind. I mean, we've still got the things like 4G and the 5G on its way, and nobody really sort of cares. I mean, where's the protests? Where's everybody out there in the streets marching about saying, hang on a minute, we don't want all of this. We don't want poisons in the water. We don't want this stuff in the air. We don't want this environmental stuff. But it gets worse than that, because after all, we know that so many man-made fibres and so many man-made plastics and so many man-made metals are off-gassing or leaching into the atmosphere or getting into the land, especially when things have been dumped. I mean, have a look at those blades that go round and round, chopping up the birds in order to generate electricity. You know, those sort of, what do you call them? The wind farms that we're building everywhere. So enthusiastic to be green and save the planet from that myth of man-made global warming, so that we're manufacturing these things which cost so much more in terms of carbon to actually produce and install, like these solar farms and these wind farms, and the wind farms with the big turbines that go round and round, those blades that last maybe 15 to 20 years if you're lucky. And then what happens to them? Oh yes, that's right, they mysteriously disappear. But where do they go? Oh, that's right, they have to go into landfill, or they're just dumped, where whatever that metal is leaching into the ground and then getting into the watercourses and inevitably into our food and inevitably into us. And we don't seem to care. Again, where's the protest? Where's the outrage? I mean, it's bad enough we all go to the supermarkets, don't we? Yet we know that the food in the supermarkets is highly industrially processed. It's an industrial farming process. We know that they've got all sorts of insecticides, pesticides, herbicides, all those insecticides and more besides going into our food, into the food chain, and we're gobbling it up. I mean, they've even got these weird coatings that they put on the fruit and veg so that it will stay on the shelf long enough. And we seem to think, wow, that's a good idea. Keep that fruit that should have been off by many, many months ago, and we're still gobbling it up and thinking it's not doing us any harm. We've got these plastics that we sit on, or we utilise, or we give to our children that have been formed into toys or whatever, and they're all off-gassing all sorts of toxins. And we're recycling. Oh yes, the joy of recycling, where you grab those old man-made products and you shove them in the bin, and if you're lucky, some of them are actually recycled and not just stuck into landfill, where again they're leaching into the ground and the watercourses and then ultimately into us. But some of that plastic that might be, you know, oh yes, we can repurpose that, don't worry about that, we'll melt it down. And then of course that's an inferior type of plastic because it's not the original. And so who knows what extra toxins and chemicals are shoved into the mix in order to make that strong enough to repurpose it and manufacture it again. And they give it out into the world and we buy it, and there it is, off-gassing and leaching into our bodies one way or another, which is why, you know, it's not good to keep your water in plastic bottles. You often hear that. Stick it in good old-fashioned glass. It's weird that we've seemed to embrace this wonderful, amazing modern world and not really give much consideration about all these highly intensive manufactured products which have been made from a whole load of different chemicals that we've got no knowledge about. Yet we seem quite happy to allow these other people, these manufacturers, these governments, to say, yeah, no, it's all safe, don't worry about it. What we're shoving in the streams and the rivers and into the sea, no, don't worry about it. Those products that you wash your hair with every day that says it's natural, it's got aloe vera and things like that, all these things. And yeah, but what about all those other chemicals that are in there that we're soaping up our bodies in or filling our stomachs with? What about all those other things? But we don't seem to care. Maybe we've lost connection with our bodies and those things that are actually good for us. Maybe we've forgotten about the old ways of doing things in which we just simply stuck to what nature provided, some of those natural products, instead of having to manufacture something and turning out new polymers of this and new plastics of that and metals that are sort of weirdly produced and who knows what. The thing is, I mean, I'm saying that we don't care, and clearly we do care, really, if we think about it. And I think half the problem is we've just lost the ability to question. We've lost the ability to say, hang on a second, where is this being manufactured? How far has this come? What is in this product? Why do we just accept things and assume that these big companies, the big pharma that we've seen that gave us the medical intervention, we just aren't questioning enough. We need to get back to that critical thinking in which we say, hold on a second, this product, it sounds lovely, it looks lovely, it smells lovely with those artificial flavours and aromas inside it, but is it really, genuinely, 100% good for me as a human being, as a living man or woman on this planet? Is it really going to be good for me? And is it good for the environment when it's finished with? When I dump that plastic bottle into the recycling bin, is it actually going to be any benefit to us? Maybe we've got to start questioning everything around us again. Maybe we've got to start using the old noggin. Have we been dumbed down by governments, by industry, by people telling us, don't worry, you don't have to think about these things anymore? And have they treated us like little children? Maybe we have got to now start pulling up our socks and saying, do you know what? I don't want to be ill all the time. I don't want to have these products leaching into the ground and then eventually into the food. I don't want any of that, because I'm now beginning to become much more intelligent. I'm asking intelligent questions. I'm far more skeptical about these things that have been made for me. And maybe getting back to some more basic stuff where we do stuff for ourselves, cooking organic food, making things ourselves, questioning where things come from. Maybe that's an approach that would be beneficial, not just to you and I, but to the rest of humanity. What do you think?